Coming up on Network Africa, Boko Haram strikes in Cameroon, leaving at least 10 people dead. The flight recorders in EgyptAir flight MS-804 shows that there was smoke on board the aircraft. And later, Ethiopian Airlines receive Africa's first Airbus A350. Network Africa begins right now. Hello there, glad you could join us on Network Africa. I am Adeshewa Josh. Military and local officials have confirmed that a suicide bomber has killed at least 10 people near a mosque in northern Cameroon. The bomber, who was said to have been a young boy, allegedly blew himself up as Muslims gathered under a tent in Jakana town after breaking their fast yesterday evening. No group has said it carried out the attack, but it bears the hallmarks of a Boko Haram attack. Now let's hear more on this act by terrorism expert David Ohta, who joins us from London. Thank you, David, for making our time to speak to us on Network Africa. Let me quickly bring our viewers up to speed. The Nigerian army spokesperson said just 2 days ago that the military has defeated the terrorists on land and is now moving its war to a cyber war, obviously referring to the feat it has achieved in Nigeria. What just happened in Cameroon obviously shows that there is more that needs to be done, isn't it?
Of course. I think it's very important for us to understand that, these are things which, we cannot underestimate anymore. I know the Nigerian spokesman has the right for freedom of speech, as guaranteed by Chapter 4, Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution. But what is important is that, I think people have to be able to now hold authorities to account because we keep saying that we've defeated this movement. But what is happening, what happens in Cameroon, and happens in Nigeria and happens in other countries is a clear indication that, we are not winning the war. And if we continue to rely on the fact that, the people continue to rely on the fact that these organizations have been defeated, and they keep attacking every day, I think people should be able to hold the authorities to account because, there is no winning in sight. And people rely on this information given by the authorities that, they've won the war, but, people keep dying every day. So it's an indication that, authorities have to be held into account because they are failing, under the social contract.
David, let us look at this a little closely. If the Army spokesperson is saying that the military had defeated terrorists on land and they're moving to cyberspace. He's obviously probably describing how well the Northeast is done, but there's been a regional effort against the group, and now we're seeing what looks like. What looks like. Let me just land here, David. We now see what looks like a displacement instead of a defeat, because now this group appears to be attacking other parts of the regional effort.
Yes, this is not a Nigerian crisis or a Cameroon crisis or a Chadian crisis. This is something which is happening globally. We've had attacks in different places, i.e. in Turkey, which I think we're going to talk about. But what is important is for us to understand that, Boko Haram is not a national crisis. It is something that is happening within Cameroon and other regions because it has spread, and that is the aim. But what we're saying is if you're talking about cyber attack, or cyber attacks, then you're still talking about how do you actually stop motivation using the online strategy. But we haven't got to that point yet because at the moment, the radicalization and recruitment strategy by Boko Haram is done face-to-face. It's not really done online as it's done in the West. Also, when you talk about attacking critical infrastructures, I don't think Boko Haram has that kind of capability at the moment to attack critical infrastructures using cyber systems. Then if you talk about their strategy of maybe fighting using drones, which ISIL is using at the moment, I think they haven't got that yet. But what is important is for us to understand that whether you're fighting Boko Haram using a conventional strategy which doesn't work, or you're fighting them using a cyber system, you still have to come down to addressing some of the key elements that these movements have engaged in. I think we seem to have forgotten that these groups are fighting for a purpose, and I think we still have to go back and see how we can address some of those underlying reasons. If we don't do that, we will be losing the war, and every day we keep promising that we're going to win when we're not winning.
How would you describe the regional efforts at annihilating the group?
One of the things which you have to understand is, when you're talking about the regional effort, we're talking about 8,700 forces, which has been contributed by Cameroon, Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Benin. But they don't have the resources that they need to tackle these organizations. And besides that, you're talking about the same military effort, which doesn't work. So what is happening is, even though you have this military strategy, all these countries are still keeping their intelligence and surveillance close to their chest. Because, they are not just thinking about how to share that information today. They are also worried about what happens tomorrow if we do expose our intelligence. So I think there's still that element of lack of trust between the regions. Everybody wants to play God, and this is not working.
Let's talk about other incidents which are happening globally. I'm talking here about the Turkey airport attack, which happened yesterday. The death toll is still fast rising. I mean, sub-targets are being attacked by this terrorist. What lessons should we draw from that? Because, of course,
I mean, the lessons are clear. Terrorist organizations are choosing soft targets. They are looking at airports, they are choosing markets, they are looking at hotels. The attack that took place, in Turkey is a horrendous attack, because this is an international attack, because, this is the third most busiest airport in the world. But unfortunately, Turkey is strategically placed in a very vulnerable position. They are very close to the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. They are also very close to the West. And the position of Turkey leaves them very vulnerable, because most of the fighters of the Islamic State go through Turkey. So Turkey is in a very delicate position. But what it tells us is the fact that we have to be very vigilant. These are very soft targets, which is very impossible for the security services to guard against. So awareness is one of the biggest solutions, but that has to increase, and not just in Turkey, but globally.
Thank you so much, David Ohta, there for us from London. Thank you. According to an Egyptian-led investigative committee, a black box recording from crashed EgyptAir flight MS-804 showed smoke alarms that sounded on board. Their statement also said that wreckage retrieved from the front part of the jet pointed to damage caused by heat and intense smoke. However, a comprehensive analysis will be conducted to determine the source and causes of these indications. Repair work of the cockpit voice recorder, the flight's second black box, has also begun. The memory unit was retrieved from the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea and repaired in Paris before being analyzed in Cairo. Still talking aviation, but in this case, way more optimistic news. Ethiopian Airlines has successfully welcomed Africa's first Airbus A350 on its maiden flight from Toulouse, France. While the state-owned carrier is ranked the largest in Africa by revenue and profit by the global industry body, the International Air Transport Association.
The state-owned carrier is ranked the largest in Africa by revenue and profit by the International Air Transport Association, the global industry body. The new extra-wide body, A350, made its maiden flight, leaving Toulouse on Tuesday and arriving in Addis Ababa early on Wednesday. Ethiopian Airlines chief executive says the plane's unique features would offer a new experience for travelers in the region.
The cabin features the passenger comfort, the wider seats, and better air quality, and very quiet. It's not noisy. So the passengers will take advantage of this new technology airplane, and of course it puts us in a better competitive position.
The company's revenue was about $2.39 billion in its fiscal year ended July 7 last year, and plans to increase revenue to about $10 billion by 2025 by nearly doubling its fleet and opening new routes.
The arrival of this aircraft is a confirmation of Ethiopian Airlines' commitment to play a leading role in the socio-economic development of our beloved country and the integration of the continent through the provision of competitive, reliable, safe and secure air transport.
The airline has targeted the growing trade ties between Asia and Africa in recent years, as well as that with Brazil, by inaugurating flights to Rio de Janeiro. It also launched flights to Los Angeles and Toronto.
Let's take a break on Network Africa. When we come back, we'll look at a new report which highlights the impact of Brexit on the continent. Do stay with us.